Hi everyone, so my name is David Andrade. I know half of the people here. For those of you that don't know me, I was working for Hogarth Worldwide as the dev director until last week. I just left to join William Hill, so no pressure. Boss is sitting right next to me. And well, first of all, before I start, I'd like to thank Mark for organising this and giving me the opportunity to also present. We've been having some really interesting conversations about these subjects over the last few months, and this idea just came across, so thanks Mark. And yeah, I'm going to pick up where Mark left off and just talk about how I see from my experience and some courses and books and conversations, loads of conversations, how we can go ahead and create and maintain, which is a bigger challenge, high performance teams. So this is a rough overview of what we're going to be talking about, team definition, some high performance characteristics and the things that high performing teams have. Why do we actually look for high performance? How do we create those teams? How do we maintain those teams? And then to finish, just a quick word on motivation. If you have any questions, feel free to just interrupt me at any time. I did prepare this, so I should be able to pick it up anywhere. So, team definition. I wanted to start with the team definition because I think that in many organizations, certainly where I worked, managers just come across and say, we need a team to work on this project or to work on that product. And they just hire the people or just get them from different teams, sit them together and tell them come up with a team name. That's it. That's a team. Well, not really. So this is a definition that I got from the Harvard Business School, The Wisdom of Teams. A team is a small number of people with complementary skills who are committed to a common purpose, set of performance goals and approach for which they hold themselves mutually accountable. And I think there are some points here that are very important. To start with, a small number of people. I don't know if any of you played football before. I used to play football when I was a kid, since I was like 9 until I was 19. And one of the things that always happened is that, in a football team you have 11 players, then you have the other players, so you have around 20 to 25 people, right? And there's always, in any football club or any football team, smaller groups within that team. There's always the guys that are in the locker room and they sit together, that when you go out for lunch or dinner, they sit together and they walk, when you go for a walk before the game, you walk together. So there's actually teams within the team. So they say that any team shouldn't be bigger than 10 people. So always less than 10. But, obviously for the football case, you do have to have more people for that. But to create a proper effective team, usually you have a smaller number of people than that. Obviously, the skills and the common purpose. I think that when you actually get to high performance and you can get somewhere as a team and you feel like a team, you know exactly what you're doing and why you're doing and where you're going. There'll be a lot more on that in the as we go along. So I want to continue on that now. And a very important point, which I personally find, well, probably the best point here for me, is the accountability piece. Because there's a lot of teams that because they kind of work together and they get along, or not really, but they sit with each other, they don't feel like they can hold each other accountable for their performance and their results. And I think that once a team gets to a position where you can actually call someone out or have a conversation, an honest conversation about their results and their performance, that's just taking things to a different level. So high performance teams. Some of the characteristics of high-performance teams, as you can see, the common goals, purpose, vision, all the things that we've been talking about, the skills, the accountability, and then I think, from then on, that's where high-performance really starts to stand out. There's a sense of trust between the individuals in a high-performance team. People actually trust that, the person sitting next to them will be able to do the job, or will try to do their best to do the job. The communication is also very important because I had a high performance team, I think at least, that was very noisy. We were actually we moved offices and we were going to sit next to management, and one of them was very worried and came to me and said, are you sure this is a good move? Because we talk so much crap that they're not going to like it. And that's the kind of communication that team had. I've seen other teams though that although they communicated, they used to do it in, we have morning stand-ups where everyone talks about what they're talking about, they're working on, and people would communicate more there or via Skype just because they prefer, a quiet environment. So as long as there is communication, it doesn't mean noise. And the commitment on helping each other and good relationships. there is at least respect. You don't need to be friends with everyone, but I think there is at least a sense of respect for what other persons are doing, the amount of effort they're putting on, and all of that. So there is a relationship. It doesn't need to be friendship, or we don't need to be best buddies, but there is a relationship going on there. And obviously the achievement and results. Any high performance team wants to achieve and wants to deliver results. That's exactly what high performance teams are. They raise the bar in the organization and they just outperform any other team in the organization. And it's very rare that in the same organization you see multiple high performance teams working on similar subjects. So there is always one or two, maybe three if you're lucky, teams that raise the bar and actually deliver and achieve more than the other teams. So before we move on, just a note on, do we always need high performance teams? Well, it depends on the task. We don't always need high performance teams. If you have a 2-week project that can be done by 2 people, you should just look for 2 high performers, individuals that can actually do the task. You don't need to look for a team and build a team that is high performance to do a small task, because you won't need it. By the time they actually get to a sense of trust or commitment or create a relationship, the task is done. So you won't get there. So, and I think that's an important point, because sometimes people just it's kind of trendy to talk about high performance and have great results, and people just fool themselves into that. So why high performance? Well, the honest answer, and this is a bit stating the obvious, is that the results are just better. If you have a high performing team, it will just deliver more than any other team. And a bit back into some of the points that Mark was making, individuals like to achieve great things, and they will actually stay longer in the company. It is actually one of the motivators. People, if they work in a team that they like and they feel that the team is going somewhere and delivering things, they will stick around longer. And it will be much more difficult for them to make a decision of like, well, I'm going to leave to a different job, I'm going to make more money, but it probably won't be this fun and we won't achieve this much. And as I was just mentioning, they do raise the bar in the organizations. They set things to a different level, and that's results, and that's practices that they use, everything. They just look for constant improvement. And an organization is as successful as its teams and individuals. So many people, and it's surprising, managers don't actually look at their teams in deep, but totally should, because if their teams are delivering and are performing better, then obviously the whole organization will benefit from that. So, creating high-performing teams. Now I'm going to show you a set of bullet points that I use, and I think that, well, usually some successful managers and leaders use to create high performance within their own teams. So, I start with the one that it's very important for me. The leader sets the example. If you are a manager or a leader, doesn't always mean you're a team leader or you're a director. But if you are in a leadership position, people will look up to you for whatever you do. If you're the first one in the office, or if you just come in at 10:30 and you look hangover, or if someone is looking for you because they need to ask you a question at 5 p.m. and you're already in the pub and they know that, people will look up to you for the good and the bad. So if you're committed and you actually pay attention and you try to help everyone, people will also look up to you for that. So I think it's very important to have in mind that every time you get in the office and every time you leave, people will be looking up to you as an example. A good example or a bad example just depends on whatever you do during the day. And now I'm going to touch a bit on Mark's area, because I think it's very important that, in the hiring process, and I don't know many of you are hiring managers, but from the conversation, quite a few, you involve, at least where I work, we used to involve a lot of people in the hiring process, and working with HR or the recruitment team, involving other people from our teams in the recruitment process. The way we act and the way we react, as Mark was saying, taking 24 hours to review CVs, following up on the tests, doing the phone interviews, getting the team involved in doing face-to-face interviews. One of the things I've tried recently in my last job was to actually bring in the candidates for half a day to sit with the team and actually get the team's feedback after that to see what they thought, if they could actually work with them or not, if they enjoyed, first feelings. It's only half a day, but it's better than nothing. So there are a lot of things that people that are hiring managers can set as attitudes towards hiring that will influence everyone else. And obviously I have these 3 bullet points here because studies show that there's 3 things people hire for: skills, attitude, and energy. Funny enough, studies also show that the one that most managers look for, hiring managers look for, is skills. We look at CVs, we do technical tests. If you think about how most companies do their recruitment process, 80% is probably skill-based. And 20% is probably the hiring manager or someone else in the team trying to see how the candidate would fit in or not. Well, the same studies show that actually skills are the least important. Obviously, we're not going to get a nurse as a Python developer, or even she has a great attitude and energy, that won't work very well. But if someone has the ability, the basic skills and the ability to acquire those skills, then the energy and attitude are a lot more important than the skills themselves. And back to the vision and the common goals and the common purpose. One of the things when creating a new team, obviously the organization has an idea of what they need the team to work on. No one just creates teams out of the blue and say, well, let's find a product to work on now. There is already an idea of something that is going to be worked on. But especially when creating a new team or picking up an existing team and moving them into a different project or product, depending on how the organization works, it's a great opportunity to actually get the individuals in the team involved in creating this vision, this common purpose and goals. One of the things I've tried recently was to actually get the team members every quarter to define their own quarterly goals as a group, so the team goals. And surprisingly, although I was a bit worried about it, what would actually come out, is this going to be a lot of nonsense? No, not really. The things that they came up with were like, we're not going to lose any team member for the next 3 months, or we're going to try to deliver to our commitments every 2 weeks. We work in 2-week cycles. All those things that actually mapped out to the things that I would set as their objectives if I was doing it myself. Obviously, turning this the other way around, they're setting it for themselves, so they will definitely feel more accountable for it than if I do. Well, at least that's the idea. And there's a leadership style in some of the leadership models that is the pace setter, and I think this is especially from my experience in the last couple of years. I had teams that were going really fast and teams that weren't really going that fast, and obviously I was asked by results from my bosses, and I would look at the team and see, well, we are clearly not going to give many results because we're just going too slowly. People are not motivated, they're not interested, and they just come in, they kind of do their 9 to 6 or 9 to 5, and then they just want to go home. And I think that, especially as someone in a management position, it's the best place to actually help setting the pace. And I'm not saying that I would go back and do a developer's task just to show him that he did it in 4 days and I could do it in 2. It's the way I actually interact with them, or any of us interact with them. The way, how long do we take to reply to an email? How long do we take to reply on Skype? Or if they ask for a one-to-one, one of the things that I take very seriously is when someone says, oh, can we have a catch-up? I try to do it straight away. If I can't do it straight away, as soon as I have like 5-15 minutes, I try to get that person and go for a coffee, even if that delays the rest of my day. I think it just sends the message that you're interested and you actually care about what their concerns are. And deal with everyone differently but using the same standards. I was in Cambridge a couple of weeks ago, and we spent half a day in a case study of a general manager of a German company. And funny enough, he was a very successful young manager. He was about 35. And he was successful managing everyone in his team except his commercial director, which was 20 years older than him, 20 years more experienced, came from a different background. He wasn't German, he was from someone else in Eastern Europe, I think. And basically, the mistake he was making after we went through the case for quite a long time, I think it was half a day, we realized that he was just treating everyone in the same way. He was having the conversations in the same way with everyone. He was giving everyone the same message. And that worked with some people, that worked with young managers that he actually hired because full of energy, and he would just come around and help them do the task. But it wouldn't work with someone that was 20 years more experienced than him and just wanted to be left alone and dealt in a different way. So, and when he actually realized that, then things changed, and obviously they created a more successful relationship together. And I think obviously we need to use the same standards with everyone, because if you don't use the same standards, then people will see that, and then it's probably a no turning back point. But if you use the same standards, you can actually treat people differently or and send the message in different ways.
So how did he treat his 20-year-old older guy?
He just started giving him a lot more autonomy, and instead of doing like daily checks, he would actually do like weekly checks or weekly catch-ups and all those small things that actually changed the way they were interacting. So very small things, but he actually got along with making the work. He never had a great relationship with him because I think it was too broken for that, but certainly will help him in the next challenge like that he finds. And create an environment where the team feels comfortable, create bonds with and within the team. So I think environment is a very broad word. You can use it as the environment in the office. I had an office I was working in recently that you had to wear a winter coat in the office because it was too cold. That's not exactly the kind of environment I'm talking about here. We'll talk about that in a second. But about the environment within the team and around the team is very important. The noise that sometimes goes around teams and in organizations, and the bonds that you can actually create with your team members. My style is I like to go into the office and high five everyone and be very close. That's my way of doing it. Not the best way for everyone for sure. Doesn't actually work for me with every individual either. I think there's.
That does a guy 20 years older than.
Yeah, exactly. That is a good example. So, but for some people, for some individuals, work, and I think that creating those bounds and showing people that that's okay, actually helps them between themselves to be more open and actually interact in a different way. Be open and transparent. This is one that, well, I don't know if you've ever been in this position. I have, where you get to a point where you think, I should have said this to my team a month ago, and I haven't. It happened to me, especially around people leaving. You kind of feel like, okay, just resigned 2 days ago. I don't want to, set a bad tone, and here we have a deadline in 3 days. So I'm just going to keep it for now, and next week when we do the weekly kickoff, I'll just tell everyone. Well, that really didn't work, because obviously people talk on Skype all the time. They go for coffees, they go for lunch. So when I actually put it out, everyone knew already, and there was no surprise whatsoever. So one of the things, especially in that specific subject now, every time I have an opportunity, I'll just come out and say it, because it ended up playing in my favor afterwards. But being open and transparent with the team goes a bit back to how we interact with the team. They will also be more open and transparent with you if they feel like, well, you're not bullshitting them, you're actually saying what you think. Obviously, there are things that go on in management meetings and all that you don't want to share, but as much as you can, it's certainly good to be open and actually tell people what's going on. And this is one, and people here that know me know that I hold this one very dear. Make sure people individuals are progression. I like to think that I'm an ambitious guy and always think what I'm going to be doing next every time I start something. And I think trying to do that for my teams and for the people that work with me, not only on career progression, like what's my next role, but on the skills they have and the behaviors they have, skills, soft skills and technical skills, is very important. And people, as Mark was saying, growth is one of the main things that people look for in a job. So if you can provide that, and if you can at least take the time to help them find where they want to go and how they want to get better in their job, that's something that is definitely going to make them deliver more and be more motivated.
And stay longer.
Yeah, and stay longer. Make sure the company culture and values support the team's success. This might be a very tricky one, especially because there are a lot of software companies, or companies that do software that are not software companies. I've been, just worked for an agency, and small things like everyone is doing now flexible working hours. People can come in whenever they want, or maybe until 10, from 8 to 10 they can come in whenever they want. I remember that a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, it wasn't me, it was my boss back then, I guess, but we started talking about this, went to HR, and their first reaction was, no way, we're not going to do that, because that's not how the rest of the company works. And we ended up getting it with some restrictions. We ended up getting it, and it didn't actually motivate people. It just was like, okay, it took so long, and it has some restrictions, but yeah, it's okay, kind of thing. So the reaction wasn't exactly what we were expecting. Another lesson learned. but making sure that the company culture and the values actually align with the teams is very important, because most of the values are defined by someone that founded the company, writes them on the wall or in an HR book, and if the individuals in the company don't use those values and as behaviors and actually embrace them, then they're not really the company values. They're just some stuff that's on the wall and no one follows. I worked for a company for 3 years, and only when I was there for 2 years is that I actually found out what the values were. So that kind of explains why I'm bringing this up, because it doesn't make sense. If you have those values, you should totally bring them up at the interview point, or when you assess a candidate to see if they fit in with the culture, and make those values behaviors for everyone that works there.
Has William Hill taken you through their values?
No, we haven't.
No. I just find it a really.
What
What about Hogarth? Did you? Home
truths they're called.
Oh, okay.
And each H was I can't remember what they are. They're so
Okay.
bad. I mean, they're like
No,
1970s.
isn't it?
They need to be rewritten. Yeah. Don't. Scrub
Well,
that.
that answers the question. So create a winning mentality and improvement mindset. Everyone likes winning. Even the people that don't go out and say, "Oh, I like winning, and I just won this, so I want to win that." If you are part of a winning team, you'll be a lot happier than if you're part of a team that, even if it doesn't lose, doesn't win. So if you can create a winning mentality within the team, and the team can actually have that, and an improvement mindset where the team just keeps improving, then everyone will definitely be happier and just start giving more suggestions. You'll find that once you have that shared across the team, individuals that wouldn't actually talk in meetings will actually come up with suggestions. And that starts making a big difference, because instead of having 1 or 2 people giving suggestions, you have 5 or 10. So now, maintaining high performance. This is even more challenging than actually creating high performance, because it's usually when you have a product and you have a big deadline, you just create and try to do some of these suggestions I've given, or others. Obviously this is not bulletproof, but teams go like this, they achieve their goal, and then usually they go stay there for a bit, and then they just drop. And there are a few reasons why that happens, and one of them is this: before a team achieves its goal and doesn't know what the next goal is. But there's lots of times, and I've been through this myself, where the team just delivers a big product or a big project, gets to the end, and it's comes in the morning, okay, we're online now. If it's a software product, for example, we're online now, we're just waiting for bugs and feedback, right? And you realize you had 3 coffees that morning because there isn't that much to do. So I like to think that when everyone is celebrating, we're already preparing the next thing. And don't get me wrong, we should totally go out and celebrate. I think it's very important, and buy the beers and have a few, but it's definitely very important that we just see ahead, and we don't deviate the team from the task at hand, but we just start talking to them about what's coming and what's going to be done next, what are we going to be focusing on next, so the performance can actually stay where it should be and not drop, because all the work you've done to actually improve individuals and the team will actually be wasted. And there is always space for improvement, even at the highest level. Even if your team is a high-performance team and you feel like they're delivering more than anyone else in the company, there is always things you can improve. You can always revisit the process you've been using for 6 months or a year and try A, B, or C, and probably one of them will work, probably the other 2 won't, but at least the team will continue to have the improvement mindset, and they'll continue to find ways, or try to find ways, to improve and deliver more and actually become better. And this is a very important point, which is reducing the leaders or the team leader or the manager or whoever it is involvement in this process. One of the clients I was working with a couple of years ago, I was going on holiday for the first time. It was my first leadership role, and I was freaking out. Obviously, I was going to be in Portugal for 2 weeks. I was like, oh, we're going to have a show and tell and show them what we've done, and I'm not going to be here to make sure everything is going to be okay. And we're having this conversation, and the client said to me something like, well, now you're going to actually have a test of your leadership, because you're going to be away for 2 weeks. If everything goes well, you're doing a good job. If not, then you probably have things to review. And I think that I didn't quite get it at the time. I was like, well, whatever. But it's actually a very crucial point, which is if your team is able to perform without you, or with just a little bit of your help, then you have actually created a high-performance team that goes on, and you can move on to a different job or a different project, or focus your attention on another team that needs more help, and not stay so focused on that. Be careful with not just losing touch with reality, because it's always important to know exactly what's going on and be in touch with reality so you don't have bad surprises later. And dare to rebuild parts of the team. I don't know if you've been watching Alex Ferguson's interviews. He's been talking a lot since he left Man United, but he said that from his perspective in Man United, they had 3-4 year working teams. So they would just like rebuild the team or parts of the team every 3-4 years. And especially in the technology area, this is going to happen anyway, because people are going to, the market is so strong, and there's so many hot startups, and obviously the Googles and the Apples of this world. People are going to leave at some point, and some people you might actually want to, you know, move to a different project or a different product. So I think having a hand on actually rebuilding the team is a lot better than just firefighting when people decide to leave or when the team is not performing as it should. So obviously it's difficult because the team is performing and you don't want to break it, but having the courage to do it, it's also a very good thing. And now a high performance example. So I'm not a rugby fan, I'm Portuguese, all we do is football, we don't do anything else. But I've started, no, not cricket, I didn't even know what cricket was before moving to the UK. But you know, a few friends asked me to start watching the rugby with the World Cup, and I did. And I was hoping the All Blacks actually won the semi-final, so I wouldn't be here talking about them, and they had already lost. But if they had, that also happens. So you know, high-performing teams also lose. And I think the most interesting thing for me about the All Blacks is that I wasn't watching rugby. I didn't know much about it. I still don't know the rules very well, but I already knew the All Blacks. I already knew because they win, because they perform, because they just seem to be better than everyone else. And the fact that they constantly outperform and deliver, outperform the other teams and deliver, even with different players, because it's a national team, people will grow old and leave, and you know, young players will come in. Just shows their team spirit and their constant drive to success. If you see the haka, I was doing some research as I was putting this together, and one of the players that plays now for the national team, he was saying, well, I've known the haka since I was 4. I had no idea if I'd ever get to the national team, but I knew that if I did, I would want to be part of that. And it's the small things. Obviously, I'm not suggesting that we start doing the hack in the office, but I'm just saying that it's the small things. It's the small things that make the difference and actually create team spirit. It's all those little things together that actually help, you know, people to bond and actually create a better team spirit.
I think the hacker was one of the first things they changed in the 80s, wasn't it? There was a YouTube video of the hacker in the 80s, they were giving it, no one's interested. And the coach came in and went, right, we'll do this properly, and that started, I think, the rise of
You're right, yeah.
Right.
what they were doing.
And with that, I'm just going to leave you with a word on motivation. I think this is a quote I came across a few weeks ago. The opposite of job dissatisfaction is not job satisfaction, but no job dissatisfaction. And I had to read it a couple of times to actually get into it, because it's very interesting. And hopefully I'll be able to justify it with hygiene factors versus motivator factors. So what this is if you look at the first one, hygiene factors, you have things like company policy and administration, working conditions, so the cold office that I mentioned previously, salary, I should have made it bold, status and job security. And then there's more to this list, I've just put a few examples. And what these are not motivators. Even the money, you know, I think everyone has been to that position where someone wants to leave, you give them a pay rise, they stay for 3 months and then they go anyway. So even the money, they're not motivators. But they're things that annoy people. They're things that, you know, the company policy, if you want to have training and your company says, oh, but you have to sign this and it's going to take X amount of months to do it, well, but the conference is next week. You know, all of that just creates frustration. So, you know, any manager or leader's job is to actually clean these up so people don't get frustrated by them. And I think it's very important, especially for the salary one, to have that in mind. I usually say that we should just pay people enough so they don't have to worry about money. And then we have the true motivators. So achievement. I've talked a lot about achievement. I'm not going to expand much more on that, but everyone likes to achieve things as a group, as individuals. Recognition for achievements. I think everyone has been in that position where you work 12 hours a day the whole week, and your boss walks past you on a Friday afternoon and says, "Yeah, have a good weekend." Not even a thank you, or and there's many ways of recognition. There's obviously the big company email. I've been guilty of doing that a few times. There's loads of ways, but actually recognizing people for their work is, well, one of the top motivators for everyone. And the work itself, I find this one very challenging personally, because obviously if you have, in my case at least, you have developers working on a product, and they are working as part of an agile team, and they're doing different features every 2 weeks and all of that, but the features and the technology set and all that doesn't change very often. So making the tasks more interesting for an individual is not a very easy piece of work. There are things that can be done. One of the things I've tried was by setting people learning objectives, so things that they want to learn, skills that they want to learn that are not, they can be, but don't have to be directly related to the work they do on a daily basis. So they have at least, they still do their job, but they have X amount of time that we might agree or not, depending on the individual, to actually work on something else. But I found that one very tricky. Responsibility, everyone likes to be, feel empowered. I think I actually had one of the things I had with one of my previous bosses was that he would just check in on me once in a while, and they were just like, "Yeah, just go ahead and deliver the project. If you have problems, let me know." I personally felt like, yeah, great, great stuff. Whenever this is out, it's going to be my doing. Obviously, it's a big responsibility, and we should check in to make sure everything is going well. But I think if people feel empowered, they feel a lot more motivated to actually deliver things. And there are different leadership styles that apply to different development levels of individuals in responsibility and empowerment, but the general consensus is that it's a big motivator for people. And growth through advancement. It goes back to what I was saying about learning objectives and everything that I've said about individuals getting better. So I find it, personally, I like to be in a place where I can grow. When I don't think I can grow anymore, I just walk out. For me, it's a big thing, and I think that some people don't actually realize what they can advance and how much they can grow. And one of the jobs of managers and leaders is to actually help those people realize that they can grow, that they can go somewhere. And once they do, then the conversation with them changes, and the game just changes straight away. So it's one that I hold very dear as well. And well, I'm gonna leave you with the Michael Jordan quotes: "Talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence win championships." And it's one of the quotes I have behind my desk. Well, used to, so really dear to me. And thank you very much.